Hi everyone, welcome to CLLST. So in today's discussion, we'll talk about how to ace legal section. So by now, I hope that you all have, visited or you all have solved the actual CLAT paper. Even if you haven't solved, or even if you have solved, let's, have a quick idea about legal section. So I'll just share my screen and I'll show you the actual CLAT paper where we'll have a quick discussion with respect to legal section. So when I talk about legal guide, so you must have seen that the first passage was based on COVID-19, and this was something which we had, we were expecting that this question will come because COVID-19 was in news, is in news, and also since most of the time, whether it's the government, corporate houses, everybody was invoking the principle of act of God. So they were there, we were expecting this question, act of God, and you had, earlier also solved many questions. I mean, those who were appearing in 2020 had solved many such questions in their mock as well. So first passage was quite expected that there will be one question on legal reason. Also, guys, when I'm referring to legal section, and when you go through the actual CLAT paper, you'll see that everything has been taken. I mean, not everything, but yeah, 90% of the questions were picked from, or the articles or the passage were picked from newspapers. So you also have to do one thing is that you have to read newspaper on daily basis. You have to keep an eye on legal section as well. I mean, legal news, whether the government is coming up with something or whether the Supreme Court is pronouncing any judgment. So we have to keep an eye on each and everything. So this was the first passage. The second was with respect to obscenity. So what do you think? Obscenity passage, they gave it randomly or it was in news? This was also in news, guys. So they came up with this passage also. Then the next passage, the third one was with respect to your polluter pays principle, principle of strict liability, principle of absolute liability. So at that moment, we had LG Polymers case, we had the Lebanon issue. So that's why they picked one question. So absolute liability was something which again we were expecting that, okay, such type of questions will come. But okay, so then we'll come to the next one, which is about the principle of natural justice. So principle of natural justice, when I say, guys, so it was also not randomly picked. We had various instances where, principle of natural justice was invoked. One case was such that where the CGI was himself the part of the committee. So again, it was like that no one should be judged in his or her own cause. So there again, I mean, there's just one or two passages which was not related to any current event, but most of the topics were from current event. Then the next passage was with respect to Palghar mob lynching, again was in news. Then the next passage was with respect to Arnav Goswami's, multiple FIR was lodged against him. Guys, when I refer to this passage, and especially with respect to this particular passage, there was an issue with respect to question number uh, 94. So in this question, it was asking that the court ordered for merging different FIRs into one, then the investigation to be conducted at Mumbai. What's the reason behind such order? So the correct answer given by CLAT official authority is option A. Most of the student had went with option D because option D also to some extent looks like that, okay, this is also correct, where it was like there's a multiple FIR are frivolous and there's only one cause of action. So most of my student who had attended the online classes where we had, before the exam, we conducted one session on let's decode legal knowledge. So in that session, I had referred to this article. So this was a news article where it clearly, one of the article was talking about the freedom of speech cases this year, which was there in Supreme Court, and in how many cases people got relieved and in what cases they did not. So in this case, here I am referring to the, my screen where it is clearly stating that why, on what ground the FIR was, merged, or FIR was, multiple FIR was quashed. So just give me a second. I'll take you to that particular, paragraph where it's clearly stating that, what was the reasoning. So just give me a second. Yeah, so here, if you look at this case where it is, I mean, this paragraph which states the first case in which the court granted relief was filed by Republic TV editor-in-chief Arnav Goswami. seeking question of FIR filed in connection with a TV show on April 21. So here the Supreme Court rejected all but one FIR and said that the filing of multiple FIRs relating to the same incident constituted an abuse of process and must be quashed. So when we look at this term where it's stating an abuse of process and must be quashed, it becomes very easy for us to answer that the correct option or the correct answer is option A, where it states multiple FIR means multiple investigation, where again is the abuse of power. Then obviously when everybody is having the authority to investigate, so there can be some arbitrary action also, and same might cause hardship to the accused also. So this is again the abuse of power. So why I'm referring to this question, why I'm referring to news article, and why I'm referring to official CLAT paper is, when you go through the paper, it actually gives you an idea as to how to study, what to study, and from where to study. So if you look at all these questions and all, the first and foremost thing which is very much clear is that we have to read each and every article of from legal perspective in news in detail. And since I had already referred in my online classes that article 19(1)(a), which is, everyday question in present era, or you can say present time, we have to keep an eye on each and every news which is related to article 19(1)(a). Then also news with respect to defamation, contempt of court, and everything is, interrelated and correlated, because all these falls in the category of exception to article 19(1)(a). Then we had one, questions on common intention. So we can say that it is a kind of static topic. Then the next one was with respect to Article 20, Clause 1, which is talking about ex post facto laws, which is basically the retrospective of criminal law. So this also can be said to be a static topic. And then the last passage was, okay, so this was the last passage. So guys, the idea of referring to my, actual CLAT paper is to tell you that you have to read from newspaper, you have to read from various, online sources where all articles are given and mentioned. And also in my class, we always discuss about the current events and try to correlate. There are multiple burning issues right now. For example, if I talk about Farms Bill, so 3 of the laws are in question. So also we need to keep an eye on that why it has been questioned, why there's a protest going around in the country. And also when I'm talking about Farms Bill, so it's not only important from the legal section, it's also important from economic section, where we need to know about, APMC mandis, where we need to know about what is MSP and everything. So the idea is, whenever you are reading something, you have to read it from CLAT legal section plus GK section, both the section. Then only you will be in a position to, understand that what kind of questions are being asked. So this is one thing, guys. And also, since static section has been asked, static portion has been asked, and if something is in news, you also need to know about the static section of that particular topic. For example, if I talk about contempt of court case, so in contempt of court case, apart from going through the current news, we also need to know what is contempt of court, what is civil contempt, what is criminal contempt. Similarly, when we talk about, defamation, so apart from the multiple cases, we also need to know about what is defamation, what's is important from civil laws perspective, what's is important from criminal law perspective. So the idea is to tell you that, you have to refer, or you have to read both the static section as well as current affairs, and you have to correlate if you want to ace the legal section. And obviously practicing more and more questions from this type of passage format or the current new pattern will help you. So even if till now you haven't gone through the actual CLAT paper, you haven't solved it, you haven't analyzed it properly, it's the right time to do it, so that after 5 months, if exam is happening on second Sunday of May, we can ace the exam. So that's all for today's, guys. Thank you so much. Keep tuned. If you haven't subscribed, subscribe the channel for more updates. Thank you.